Okay. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. The show is Diaspora Dispatches. And today, since I brought you the latest news from across the continent of Africa, earlier this morning, I want us to just pay a special spotlight on one of the leading stories from the continent that is getting the rest of us a bit worried, and that is the escalation of conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, with the recent developments where the Democratic Republic of Congo has continued with its accusations against Rwanda, and over the weekend expelled Rwanda's ambassador to the country, and also recalled its own ambassador from Rwanda. And so things don't seem to get any better. And there are a couple of players that have been accused as being part of that conflict and fueling that conflict, but Rwanda in particular has been one of the key people who have been accused, or countries who have been accused by the Democratic Republic of Congo. And just a few weeks ago, I think I took us through a bit of some background behind the rising conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So today, I want for us to just look at why does Rwanda feature prominently in the Democratic Republic of Congo conflict. Why are these allegations like that? Why is the DRC insisting that Rwanda is part of the players that is fueling this conflict? A bit of it, I think, when we were looking at the latest update on this story early in the morning, we saw a report that was carried out, investigations that were carried out by independent United Nations investigators, who made some revelations that, seems to support Felix Tshisekedi's assertions on Rwanda's involvement in the conflict. But I'll just take us through, like I said, some few weeks ago, we looked at what's behind the rising conflict. So for us to fully have a grasp of what is happening in the DRC, we must understand the origins. I will not trace it all the way back to colonial era and pre-colonial era, because a lot of these things are pegged in there. But I'd like for us to pick it from the 1994 Rwandan genocide, and so we can understand the axis and how these two countries became to be, and why Rwanda is being accused of being involved in the Democratic Republic of Congo. How did it even find its way there, first of all? And why is it thought that it is supporting the M23 rebels? Okay, so those are the questions we shall be trying to understand this afternoon. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in and you're joining us from. And we are coming to you from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. So just a bit of a background of that conflict. The origins of the current violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the massive refugee crisis and spillover from the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, after Hutu genociders fled to Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and formed armed groups opposing Tutsi and other opportunistic rebel groups arose. The Congolese government was unable to control and defeat the various armed groups, some of which directly threatened populations in neighboring countries, and war eventually broke out. From 1998 to 2003, government forces supported by Angola, Namibia, Zimbabwe fought rebels backed by Rwanda and Uganda in what is known as the Second Congo War. While estimates vary greatly, the death toll may have reached over 3 million people despite a peace deal in 2002 and the formation of a transitional government in 2003. Ongoing violence perpetrated by armed groups against civilians in the eastern region has continued, largely due to poor governance. So there was the First Congo War, and then the Second Congo War that happened between 1998 and 2003, where Uganda and Rwanda were also accused. But we trace this back to the origin of the Rwandan genocide in 1994. That is where we'll pick our conversation this afternoon. But as I said there earlier, some of these could be traced way back into DRC's post-independence and even before that. So the seeming rapid deterioration of security in the eastern DRC and resurgence of the M23 are an outcome of long-standing regional rivalries between Rwanda and Uganda. The escalation of the security crisis in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo risks reigniting interstate conflict in the Great Lake regions. So when did the crisis begin? The recent that we are now experiencing, that it has now escalated. The current crisis erupted in November 2021 when the largely defunct March 23 movement, also known as the M23 militant group, carried out lightning strikes at military positions of the Armed Forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo, FARDC, in the villages of Chanzu and Runyonyi in North Kivu province, just west of the Ugandan and Rwandan borders. This occurred the same time, the same month, the Ugandan forces were deployed to the province to pursue the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, who also Uganda accuses of fighting Uganda from the DRC and then retreating to the DRC. So Uganda has always, pursued the Allied Democratic Forces, and they've carried out a few, terrorist attacks in Uganda, and so that's why it is a Ugandan rebel group, the ADF, that also operates in North Kivu, and that also ropes in Uganda into this mix. Of course, later on we'll see other factors that has to do also with economical situations in that region that also might be an interest to a country like Uganda and why it is there. And so this ADF, it's a Ugandan rebel group that also operates in North Kivu and Ituri. In October and November 2021, Uganda had been a target of suicide bombs, like I have explained the earlier attacks that President Yoweri Museveni blamed on this very deadly group. Okay, so by March 2022, M23 had seized a key part of Rutshuru territory bordering Uganda and Rwanda, and in May they overran the Rumagambo military base, and the FARDC, this is the government forces in Democratic Republic of Congo, Armed Forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo, largest military installation in North Kivu. So the government made sure they had a larger contingent of the this military there as the M23 intensified its operations. They then pushed south toward the provincial city of Goma, across Rwanda's border city of Gisenyi, and in June, that is of this year, among another M23 prong operating farther north overran the border city of Bunagana, forcing Congolese soldiers to flee to Uganda. So this is just a recap on the latest development of this escalation of war in this conflict that has plagued the Democratic Republic of Congo. All this has come as a surprise, given the 10-year lull of M23 activities. So after an agreement that was made 10 years ago, M23 was domiciled. It was quiet. It was not active as far as its attacks is concerned. And then out of nowhere last year in November, we saw them restart again this militant activities. Between March and November 2013, M23 suffered numerous defeats at the hands of the Congolese military, the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic of Congo, otherwise known as MONUSCO, and the Force Intervention Brigade, FIB, consisting of Tanzania, Malawian and South African troops, troops that March 1 cohort of hundreds of fighters fled to Rwanda. So these three countries, I think from SADC, joined hands and tried to join hands together with MONUSCO and help the DRC to fight the M23. And in November 2013, another cohort of some 1,500 M23 fighters, the remainder of the rebel group, surrendered to the Ugandan military after their strongholds were overrun. So this period, they sort of were disenfranchised, the M23 rebels, just trying to understand and perhaps to explain why they were a bit quiet for about 10 years. You can see these are events that led to some of them surrendered in 2013, and a month later, some 1,374 were dispatched to Uganda's Bilhanga Military Training School for demobilization. By 2017, however, only some 390 were still in Bahanga. There was no official explanation as to why or where the majority of the ex-combatants had gone. So the DRC has blamed Rwanda for reorganizing. So apparently the ones that never surrendered and could not be accounted for. Rwanda is being accused of reorganizing and arming the latest insurgency. Okay, so the UN Security Council's group of experts on the DRC has previously implicated Rwanda of backing M23. And while we were having this conversation early in the morning, I was reading through a report that was presented to the United Nations Security Council that the United Nations expert, let me just see if I could just get that for us, and the United Nations experts found that have evidence that Rwanda was indeed has supported the M23 rebels. So the United Nations Security Council investigators there found that, and that is a very credible report there. And of course, Rwanda has continued denying these allegations. Originally part of the Congolese military, M23 is dominated by the Congolese Tutsis. And I would like to go into the details of how M23 became even part of the Congolese military. It's a whole history, so maybe I'll find some time and on another day and explain that to you. It's a whole history as to why they even find themselves within the Republic of Congo and within the Congolese military. Remember when Rwanda intervened to remove Congolese DRC president at that time, Zaire? Mobutu Sese Seko, and Rwanda is the one who did that. So some of the army that was used became part of them, made up the M23. So it's a whole history, I said, such long one that I will not get into it right now. And it claims it wants to protect Tutsis. That is one of the key, claims that the M23 makes, and their demands. Of course, not just wanting to be part of the government, but they say they do what they do because they want to protect Tutsi against militant Hutu groups, including that which the Democratic Republic of Congo's government has been accused of supporting, the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda. And I think every time we have this conversation, I always wonder why we have a group being supported by the Democratic Republic of Congo inside of the Democratic of Congo, and this group calls itself the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda. That in itself is aggression, and that is what Rwanda perceives to be aggression from the Democratic Republic of Congo's government, as it accuses the DRC's government of supporting this group that now has been fighting the M23, that the government of the DRC is being accused of using to fight the M23 rebels that are also being accused to be supported by the Rwandan government. Okay, I hope we are together until that point. Very well. And the DFLR forces, which counts among its forces elements accused of the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. So the FDLR, majority of them are Hutu, and they're accused of being the genociders, the Hutus who committed the atrocities in the Rwandan genocide, but later on ran to the DRC and regrouped there. And so that is that. So some of M23's top commanders once served in the Rwanda Patriotic Front, and this leadership, including President Paul Kagame and his former Army Chief of Staff, James Kabarebe. So they all served in the top M23 commanders, but it had a different name at that time. It was called Rwanda Patriotic Front. Now you see how perhaps the link the accusations on DRC's part could make sense. But as I told you there earlier, there are credible reports by the that have been submitted to the United Nations that actually support President Felix Tshisekedi's assertion that Rwanda is indeed involved in supporting the M23. That is because before M23 morphed to M23, its name was Rwanda Patriotic Front, and at that time the RPF, this Rwanda Patriotic Front leadership included President Paul Kagame and his former Army Chief of Staff, James Kabarebe. Okay? One served in Uganda's military and were part of the so James Kabarebe once served in Uganda's military and were part of the rebellion that brought Yoweri Museveni to power in 1996. So you see, it's quite intricate, and the relationship between these militant groups and how they are related to now Rwanda's government, and also they have some links with the Ugandan leadership, and they occupied top positions in Rwanda's military government after seizing power there with Uganda's support in 1994 when both countries invaded the DRC in 1996 to remove Mobutu Sese Seko and install Laurent Kabila. And I will not go into the details so much. Okay, I see we are joined this afternoon by Dr. David Matanga. Doc, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, William. Thank you very much. Good afternoon in Nairobi. Thank you.
Okay, so I was just going through the history here. I was just giving a background information on just to inform our viewers who perhaps may not understand the happenings and what has led to the escalation that we see today in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And today I was just paying a special attention as to why does Rwanda feature so much in this conflict? Why is President Felix Tshisekedi and relentless as far as his accusations as to why he believes that Rwanda is indeed part and parcel of the players that are fueling this war in his country? And there are credible reports that were presented to the United Nations from investigators from the United Nations, which actually implicates Rwanda to indeed be supporting the M23 rebels. So that is what I'm doing this afternoon. So, all right, I'm just trying to see how now we can do this. All right, so the long-standing rivalry between Uganda and Rwanda in the DRC, there seems to be like a power play. And I think, Doc, you have in so many times, said that when Rwanda and Uganda are quarreling, and nobody should get between these two countries, they have their own history and they have their own interest and rivalry that seems to play out as far as President Paul Kagame and President Yoweri Museveni are concerned. So the rivalry seems to be playing out even now in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The immediate and longer term reasons for this with regard to the latter, and there has been profound level of mistrust at all levels between the DRC and of course its neighbors, and particularly the rivalry to do with Rwanda and Uganda. So I don't know if there's anything, Doc, that you'd like to add up to there before
there's plenty. There's plenty.
Yes.
There's plenty, Miriam, which you must a bit pick from from me and from the deeper analysis. First, I want to correct the notion CMD. Does it click a name somewhere for you? It is not Rwanda Patriotic Front, it is CMD, which actually was the main engine of Laurent Kunda. The remnants of CMD are the ones that formed. RPF is the main patriotic front that came from Uganda, that was led by General Rugema and Bunyenyezi, all my friends that perished that time when they wanted to overthrow Ajarimana at the first attack. They all died. Then Kagame came in and took over RPF. Now there is a CMD is the splinter group of part of the group that rescued Kabila, removed Mobutu, and they returned to Eastern Congo. And that CMD was led by Laurent Kunda, who later on, remember when I and Obasanjo went to negotiate, we flew to Goma with Obasanjo. That is why I have a problem with Mr. Obasanjo up to today. Then he left us in a place and I went to meet Laurent Kunda alone. Then Kunda told him, no, I can't meet you without Dr. Matanga, because he's the one who has made this contact for us to be able to find you. Then he came back very ashamed, calling us to go along with him. Yet we had gone in the same delegation, all the way from Nairobi by the UN. So these are some of the mistakes that we have made. So check something called CMD.
I did. I was just, because of interest of time, I was just going through
yes.
quickly, but
I have the CMD is not RPF. RPF is the group that left Uganda, supported by the Ugandan, because they also supported. Remember, Kagame was from NASA with President Museveni and others. That is Fronasa group, Rugema, Bunyenyezi. That's the Fronasa group that helped while in Tanzania. They trained in Nachingwea and in the Ruvuma River down northern Mozambique and the southern Tanzania. That's the Fronasa group that came, but Kagame came and worked in the Uganda government in the various ministries which you have gone through. I was listening. But now when it came to Congo, in Congo 1, the main group that now went to attack, to help, to remove Mobutu, formed what we call remnants, came out and formed what we call CMD. After the Mobutu collapse, and Laurent Kabila was installed to power, the main axis of the Rwandese army, which is specifically Banyamulenge, wanted a bigger share and a control for the support that they had given. But Laurent Kabila said, Congolese also want a share. And we cannot give you everything, from the Army General, Chief of Staff, Minister of Defense. There's lots of ministers. An argument ensued between the three invading armies, as you have rightly put it, until the three by then were good friends. They became two good friends against one man. And the international eyebrows were raised. So Kabila was quick. Kabila was quick, the father. He went out and called Sadak and said, the Sadaka people, Mugabe, I am under house and under attack from my friends who helped me to fight all the way from Eastern, from Tanzania, where I was in exile. They have changed their tactics. I think they want to partition Congo. And indeed, they did not hesitate. They went. They sent huge armies. So many people have died, medium, across those swamps of forests. Many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people have perished. The Ugandan army plus the Rwandese almost went towards Kinshasa. Some of them were captured. I don't want to tell you the man, 2 or 3 people who were captured, whom I rescued from Zimbabwe. But I'll tell you offline, who were brought to Harare as prisoners of war. And several of them were captured. So Kabila called for Angola, Namibia, against Mr. Mandela and against the decisions of SADC. Mandela refused. Originally, he had refused, but these troops said, no, we are going in. Zimbabwe had the security docket of SADC. Therefore, Zimbabwe had the authority to order troops of SADC, standby army, headed by the battle-hardened Angolans. You know they are good fighters. They marched into captured Kinshasa. Zimbabwe marched into again through another axis, captured. They stopped the marauding army and the invading army somewhere, and the battle ensued before they could reach Kinshasa. Then they withdrew, they were subdued. Kabila survived the removal from power. Unfortunately, internal dynamics led to assassination of Kabila. His body was brought to Zimbabwe, and I was there in Zimbabwe. At least I saw the body. His son was arranged or was organized to become the president. He came all the way from where he was deep in Lubumbashi, where he was. They had to wait, postpone the announcement of the death of the father until he came and took over the reins of power, not ruins, reins of power of his father. All that went very well. Time came for Zimbabweans and Angolans. Again, there was a power struggle. A lot of power struggle. People started, pressure came from international agencies for these forces to withdraw. But again came number two. You remember number two, the fight in Kisangani, where the two invading armies in a territory of Congo started hammering each other. It was a bloody, sucking each other's blood very heavily in somebody's territory, which is called Kisangani battle, the greatest Kisangani battle. That is where you are now seeing the Kayumbas, the army commanders, things churning. So the Kisangani battle determined the might and the strength of both armies. Rwanda came out a bit successful because they repulsed quite heavily, but they lost quite a lot of men. Uganda lost heavily. And imagine this is fighting in a territory which is not yours. Miriam, I would like to remind your viewers that there are 133 rebel groups in Congo. You are looking at M23 only, one. But there are 133 rebel groups documented by UN and the government of Congo. So for me, my question, which I keep on asking, how a country on African continent with 133 outfits, differently in its format, execution, military training, houses 133 rebel foreign groups. Some are indigenous, some are foreign groups. How can a country of that nature survive in African politics? That is one of the things that I came in to correct. Last night, while hosting a very good, well-organized, although the internet broke somewhere towards the end, I think you have had time to listen to, you can have time to listen to the audio of the Twitter space. I had actually the commanders in the name of God themselves on the Twitter space. Two of them, they were there. Sultan was there, and I had the Congolese official. I had to stop Sultan because he was very emotional. They had given me their pseudonym, names that they were going to use. I allowed them to come in, but instead they were becoming very emotional, to the extent that one of them was even suggesting that Bufumbira is part of Rwanda and Kagera is part of Rwanda. So we are opening. Yesterday again, I asked myself, so the fight is territory. These guys said they want to come and challenge people who will be on the platform. And I gave them the chance. Then they started crying saying, Uganda took our territory called Bufumbira. The Bufumbira are from Rwanda. Rwanda's territory is Bufumbira. So you are opening a new war. And then another one by name, their names, because they told me they will not speak on their real names. I said, yes, you are welcome. You can listen. I'll send you the clip right now. Or Stephen can send you, or Jeff. I've said to them, you can listen and you see the commanders. I had to intervene because my co-host was not able to sustain the pressure that the two commanders, Sultan and Kamurembe, were making serious accusations, very annoyed, very emotional. So imagine this man who is speaking like this on Twitter. How about if he finds you on the bush? So, as the talks gather, I hear the talks will begin somehow in Nairobi tomorrow. They have been called by the mediators, East African community. What significance, Miriam, is it that for us to continue holding peace talks? One thing that I've asked, one of the academics who was yesterday on my platform, Professor Goloba Mutebi from Makerere University, put 3 questions. If you don't mind, I think I will. If you don't mind, I'll read the questions for you, and then perhaps they will also form a very good basis for you to further. Professor Goloba Mutebi, a political scientist, professor teaching in Makerere University, asked the following questions. Why is the DRC unable to deny foreign insurgents space to operate on its territory? Are you there, Miriam?
Yeah, I'm listening.
I will send it. I'm sending it to Stephen so that as I read, he can also pass it over to you. Why? That's what the professor asked us, and we battled. People battled it for 3 hours. Now, the second question is, why is the DRC army unable to contain alleged external aggression? Very serious question. Another question is, why is the DRC army? So, why does the DRC not protect its mineral resources? I don't know from your point of view. Are those not serious questions? Unless DRC itself is accomplice. Is accomplice. Don't you think the DRC government also is an accomplice of the whole scheme? Surely you have the money, you have the army, you have the people, you recruit army. Why can't you train an army to go and combat these insurgencies? 133 insurgent groups on your territory. You are only bringing one group called M23, but there are other 132 left on your territory. Even if you solve the problem with M23, you will have 132 to fight.
The Democratic Republic of Congo's government is not interested to have a talk with M23, but they're interested to have a talk with the rest of the rebel groups.
They are not interested to have talks with M23. Another question that I posed, which I posed to Sultan and his Makenge and his friends yesterday. What is it that you want? You haven't told us what you want. Miriam, do you want a territory? Are you fighting to get a state? Is it time to rearrange Congo? If you want a state, you come out clearly. Because when you look at Konyi's fight in northern Uganda, it was very clear. Konyi says he's fighting because the Luo, Acholi, Lango, and northerners have been marginalized. But he went further to say, we are not interested in territory. We are interested in being Ugandans who are respected. You get my point? Then now, we negotiators and mediators understand the problem of why we are going, which I see, honestly speaking, that I don't know, the internet is come back.
It's your side.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I learned, the problem that M23 has is they have not told us what they want. They only say, when you ask them, are you Congolese? They say, yes, we are Congolese. Then why are you capturing your own territory if you are Congolese? Hello? Is it on or it is gone?
No, you were on.
I'm on.
Mm.
So that is it. That's what we can say. I can't hear myself here. I can't see. Is it on?
Yes, you're on. Just go.
Okay, thank you very much. Mm. So when you look at those difficulties that we are talking about, and those are some of the obstacles. So it is not RPF, it is CMD. Which you must look for. Those are the main people. The group that still morphed up into M23, changing the name, came from CMD. Because when you say RPF, the whole Kagame will land on us. And you will say RPF is the ruling, actually, Rwanda Patriotic Movement and the Rwanda Patriotic Party. They are the ruling party in Rwanda. The reasons that brought here, which we are discussing today, is very clear. There are clear reasons, and the reasons are, why is Rwanda mentioned all the time? Why is it mentioned all the time? Why hasn't Tshisekedi expelled Uganda's ambassador in Kinshasa? Why has he expelled the Rwandese ambassador? And yesterday, the whole arrangement was very, I learned quite a lot of things that even some of the rebel groups are sponsored by governments. The government of Burundi has sponsored officially a rebel group. They are in Congo. I couldn't believe this. And they are supported, and the president said, we go to peace talks. The president of Burundi is saying, well, let's sit on table. And the biggest problem of the Burundi problem is that he looks at Kagame as the main opponent, the main man who is destabilizing his own government. So he also created another group, FNL something, FDLR, which is in Congo to counter M23. Mm. You didn't know that. That is
but I explained that here every day. FDLR. It's a Hutu majority.
Forget about the FDR. Mm. There's another one in Burundi. There are two in Burundi that have been propped up by the government of Burundi in order to support
Burundi has been
to
accused
look for M23.
Yes, Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda have been accused to, and they support different factions of those rebels in there.
So, my dear, that is all I came in to give an insight. Unless there's any other question on anything else, that is the whole interview with the commanders who came in can be sent to you now. I've sent it to Stephen. You can get it from him, and you can listen to some of the things that people said there. Some of them were very emotional, and they created quite a lot of difficulties. Very, very, very emotional. The refugees narrating how they are being tortured. They are cut to pieces in front of their mothers, and their mothers are cut while they are watching. It caused quite an emotional night for me, and who was a moderator of this space. Good afternoon.
All right, we will continue with this conversation some other time. That is where we end our show this afternoon. Thank you so much for watching. We were looking at why does Rwanda feature prominently in the DRC conflict, and this is a conversation we can't fully exhaust right now. There are a number of other factors, the economic factors that are linked between the countries, but I think that is something that we shall look at next time. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Diaspora Dispatches. Thank you, Dr. Matsanga. My name is Miriam Mugutu. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.